My name is Jennifer Sullivan. I'm 52 years old, and fate has a strange way of testing our values. There I was, stranded on the highway with a flat tire in pouring rain when Alicia Parker stopped to help me. Despite clearly being in a hurry, this 3-4-year-old stranger knelt in mud to change my tire. As she left, she mentioned being late for a job interview at Hartford Marketing Solutions, where my daughter Megan is HR director. Imagine my shock when, dropping by Megan's office later, I saw Alicia leaving in tears after being rejected for being unprofessionally late. Before I share what happened next, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below and hit that subscribe button if you believe in karma and second chances. This story about standing up for what's right might be exactly what you need to hear today, especially if you've ever been at a crossroads between family loyalty and doing what's right. That rainy Tuesday morning had started like any other. I was driving my Lexus to a doctor's appointment when I heard the distinctive thump and pull of a flat tire. Pulling onto the shoulder of Interstate 95, I quickly realized I was in trouble. Despite the expensive car, I'd let my roadside assistance membership lapse months ago, thinking, when would I ever need it? Now, with rain pelting the windshield and cars zooming past, I had my answer. The rain wasn't just falling, it was a downpour that turned the highway shoulder into a miniature river. I stepped out anyway, immediately soaked as I assessed the damage. The front passenger tire was completely flat, likely from a nail or debris. Opening my trunk, I found the spare and jack, but realized I had no idea how to actually change a tire. My late husband had always handled such things. For 20 minutes, I stood by my car with my arm outstretched, hoping someone would stop. At least 15 cars passed by, their drivers making eye contact but continuing on their way. Some even shook their heads as if to say, "Not my problem." Each passing minute made me more desperate. My phone showed no service bars, and the rain seemed to intensify out of spite. Just as I was considering abandoning my car to walk to the nearest exit, a modest blue Honda Civic pulled up behind me. A woman emerged, already pulling on a raincoat, though it hardly seemed worth the effort given how heavy the downpour was. "Need some help?" she called over the sound of passing traffic and rain. "Yes, thank God," I replied, relief washing over me. "Flat tire, and I don't know how to change it." Up close, I could see she was in her early 30s, dressed in a professional navy suit that was quickly getting soaked despite her raincoat. She introduced herself as Alicia Parker while already kneeling to inspect the damaged tire. "I can change this for you, but I'm going to get completely muddy," she said, glancing at her outfit with resignation. "Please don't worry about that, I'm just so grateful you stopped." Everyone else just drove past. "People are in their own worlds," Alicia replied, already loosening the lug nuts with surprising efficiency. "But I believe what goes around comes around." As she worked, I held an umbrella over her, which helped minimally given the wind. We chatted, and I learned she was on her way to a job interview, her first promising lead, after being laid off 6 months ago. "It's at Hartford Marketing Solutions," she mentioned, grunting as she lifted the flat tire off. "I've been applying everywhere, but marketing jobs are competitive these days." My heart skipped a beat. Hartford Marketing Solutions was my daughter Megan's company, where she had recently been promoted to HR director at just 29. That's a great company," I managed, suddenly unsure whether to mention my connection. "I know, that's why I'm so nervous about being late now," Alicia said, wiping muddy hands on her already ruined pantsuit as she positioned the spare tire. "The interview is in 30 minutes, and I'll never make it in time looking like this." I checked my phone again, hoping to call Megan to explain the situation, but still no signal. Should I tell Alicia about my daughter? Would it seem like I was trying to unduly influence the hiring process? Before I could decide, Alicia had finished tightening the last lug nut. "There you go," she said, standing up with a grimace at her appearance. "It's just a temporary spare, so don't drive over 50 miles per hour, and get it replaced as soon as possible." "Thank you so much," I said, reaching into my purse. "Please, let me give you something for your trouble." Alicia shook her head firmly. "Absolutely not. Just help someone else someday when they need it." Instead of money, we exchanged contact information. I insisted, wanting to properly thank her later, perhaps with a gift card or flowers. As she hurried back to her car, attempting to clean her hands with a travel pack of wipes, I called out, "Good luck with your interview. I'm sure they'll understand about the circumstances. She smiled back, though the worry in her eyes was evident. I hope so. First impressions matter, you know? As I drove away, I kept thinking about Alicia's kindness and her nervousness about the interview. I knew my daughter could be stringent about professionalism, a quality that had helped her rise quickly in her career, but surely she would understand an act of good Samaritanism causing tardiness. Later that afternoon, I stopped by Hartford Marketing Solutions to drop off a lunch container Megan had left at my house during our weekend visit. The receptionist waved me through to the executive floor, where I had a badge access as a family member. As I rounded the corner to Megan's office, I saw a familiar figure exiting Alicia Parker, still in her muddy suit, her face streaked with tears. Punctuality is non-negotiable in our company culture. I overheard my daughter's crisp voice from the doorway. Being late to an interview demonstrates poor planning and a lack of commitment. Alicia nodded silently, clutching her portfolio as she walked toward the elevator, not even noticing me standing there in shock. The woman who had ruined her one good interview suit to help a stranger was being rejected because of that very act of kindness. Something inside me shifted. The lunch container suddenly felt heavy in my hands as I watched the elevator doors close on Alicia's dejected form. Then, taking a deep breath, I turned toward my daughter's office, my mind already racing with what I needed to say. Megan Sullivan had always been driven. Even as a child, she organized her toys by color and size, created schedules for playdates, and negotiated longer bedtimes with PowerPoint presentations. My late husband James and I had always encouraged her ambition, paying for the best schools and providing every advantage we could afford. After graduating with honors from Wharton Business School, Megan had rocketed through the ranks at Hartford Marketing Solutions, becoming their youngest ever HR director. Her apartment featured a wall of achievement awards and professional certifications. She was, by conventional measures, a tremendous success. But standing in her doorway that rainy afternoon, watching her methodically organize candidate folders without a hint of emotion, I wondered what kind of person my daughter had become. "Mom," she said without looking up, "just put the lunch on the side table. I have back-to-back interviews all afternoon. Megan, we need to talk about the woman who just left your office." Her head snapped up, perfectly shaped eyebrows arching in surprise. "Alicia Parker? How do you know about her?" I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. "She's the reason I made it here at all. She stopped to change my flat tire this morning, in the pouring rain, wearing that interview suit." Megan's expression shifted from surprise to annoyance. "Well, that explains her appearance. But Mom, that doesn't change anything professionally. She was 17 minutes late to her interview without calling ahead, because she was helping your mother on the side of a highway with no cell service." I rarely raised my voice with Megan, but my control was slipping. "She ruined her clothes helping a stranger, and you're punishing her for it." "I'm not punishing anyone," Megan replied coolly. "I'm maintaining professional standards. Being late to an interview shows poor planning and commitment." She had planned to be 30 minutes early. The only reason she was late was because of me. Megan sighed, leaning back in her executive chair. "Mom, you don't understand corporate culture. We had 5 qualified candidates today. Why would I choose the one who couldn't manage to arrive on time? Because circumstances matter. Context matters." I placed both hands on her desk, leaning forward. "What about the time your car broke down on the way to your Wharton interview? Professor Jameson waited an extra hour to meet with you." "That was different," Megan dismissed with a wave. "How about when you missed that crucial client presentation because your flight was delayed and Thomas covered for you? Or when you overslept for your first day at the marketing internship and I called your supervisor pretending you had a doctor's appointment?" As I listed the many times Megan had benefited from others' understanding and flexibility, her expression hardened. I realized with a sinking feeling that my daughter had forgotten or chosen to forget how much grace she had been given throughout her life. "You had every advantage, Megan. Private school, tutors, connections through your father's business network. This woman changed my tire in the rain knowing she might be jeopardizing her interview. Doesn't that tell you something important about her character?" "It tells me she makes poor decisions," Megan countered. "She should have called roadside assistance for you and kept driving." I stepped back, genuinely shocked. "Is that what you would have done?" "It's what any professional would do. In that moment, I saw with painful clarity how I had failed as a mother. In our efforts to raise a successful daughter, James and I had somehow neglected to instill basic empathy. Megan's focus on achievement had come at the cost of compassion. "What happened to you?" I asked quietly. "When did you become someone who values punctuality over kindness?" Her face flushed with anger. "This is my workplace, Mom. You can't come in here and undermine my professional decisions because you feel sorry for someone." "I'm not undermining you. I'm asking you to reconsider based on extenuating circumstances that I personally witnessed. The decision is made," Megan stated flatly. "We've already called the next candidate to schedule a second interview. Alicia Parker doesn't have the judgment we're looking for." "You mean she doesn't have the callousness you're looking for?" I snapped, immediately regretting my tone but not my message. Megan stood, signaling the end of our conversation. "I think you should go, Mom. We can talk about this on Sunday at dinner if you insist, but not here." "Fine," I replied, leaving the lunch container on her desk. "But think about this, Megan. If everyone made decisions the way you just did, you wouldn't have made it to your mother's office today because she'd still be stranded on the highway in the rain." I left without waiting for a response, my mind already turning over possibilities. Megan's cold dismissal of Alicia's situation felt like a personal failure had I raised my daughter to be this person. And more importantly, what was I going to do about Alicia Parker? For 3 days, I couldn't stop thinking about Alicia. The image of her walking dejectedly from Megan's office haunted me, especially knowing I was inadvertently responsible for her rejection. Each time I picked up my phone to call Megan and try again to reason with her, I set it back down, knowing her mind was made up. Finally, on Friday morning, I made a different call. "Alicia? This is Jennifer Sullivan, the woman with the flat tire. I was wondering if you might meet me for coffee?" There was a pause on the line before Alicia responded, her voice cautious but polite. "Of course, Mrs. Sullivan. That's very kind of you." We arranged to meet at a quiet cafe downtown that afternoon. When Alicia arrived, she looked markedly different from the rain-soaked woman who had changed my tire. Her hair was neatly styled, and she wore casual but neat clothing, though I noticed her handbag was well worn and her shoes showed signs of careful repair rather than replacement. "Thank you for meeting me," I said after we ordered. "I wanted to properly thank you for your help the other day." "Really, it was nothing," Alicia insisted. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," I said firmly. "They wouldn't. I stood on that highway for 20 minutes before you stopped. Everyone else drove past." Alicia shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. "Well, I believe in karma. Maybe next time I'm stuck somewhere, someone will help me too." "How did your interview go?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Her smile faltered. "Not great, unfortunately. I was late because of the tire situation, and they were strict about punctuality. The HR director said it showed poor judgment." I nodded, feeling a stab of shame at my daughter's words. "May I ask about your background? What kind of marketing position were you applying for?" Something in my tone must have triggered Alicia's caution. "Why do you want to know?" "I'm just trying to understand the situation better," I said, not yet ready to reveal my connection to Megan. "I feel responsible since you were late helping me." Alicia relaxed slightly, taking a sip of her coffee before responding. "I was a senior marketing strategist at Reynolds Communications for 8 years. When they downsized last spring, my entire department was eliminated. Since then, I've been freelancing and interviewing, but—" She trailed off, shaking her head. "But what?" I prompted gently. "It's been 6 months of rejections. 2 experienced for junior positions, 2 specialized for general ones," or she gestured vaguely, "too late for interviews." As our conversation continued, I learned more about Alicia. She was a single mother to 10-year-old Connor, who had a chronic kidney condition requiring expensive treatments. Her medical insurance had expired with her employment, and she was paying for COBRA coverage that consumed most of her savings. The Hartford Marketing Solutions position would have provided the salary and benefits she desperately needed. What struck me most was Alicia's complete lack of bitterness. Despite her circumstances, she spoke with optimism and determination. "Connor's a trooper about it all," she said, showing me a photo of a smiling boy with her same warm brown eyes. "And I've learned a lot about resilience this year. Something will work out eventually." When I asked about her qualifications, she hesitantly showed me her portfolio on her tablet campaigns she had developed for national brands, social media strategies that had dramatically increased client engagement, and awards she had won for innovative approaches. "May I ask who they hired instead?" I inquired carefully. "I don't know for sure," Alicia replied. But the receptionist mentioned they were bringing back a recent college graduate for a second interview. "The director's niece, I think," she said. That detail struck me like a physical blow. Megan had rejected a highly qualified candidate who had performed an act of kindness to hire a family connection? The hypocrisy was stunning. Throughout our conversation, Alicia never spoke negatively about Hartford marketing or my daughter, despite her disappointment. When she mentioned the interview, she simply said, "I understand their position. First impressions matter, and showing up disheveled and late isn't ideal." As we parted ways, I made a decision that I knew might damage my relationship with Megan, but felt unequivocally right. I didn't sleep that night, turning over options and potential consequences. By morning, I knew exactly what I needed to do, though the path forward would not be easy. I spent Saturday researching Hartford Marketing's competitors, reviewing LinkedIn profiles, and making notes. Then I pulled out my own contact list, former colleagues from before I'd retired from business development at a technology firm 15 years ago. Many had moved on to new companies, but relationships remained intact. One name stood out: Thomas Wilson, now CEO of Wilson Creative Group, Hartford Marketing's most aggressive competitor. We had worked together for years and maintained a friendly relationship through occasional charity events. I drafted an email, then deleted it. This wasn't something to handle in writing. Instead, I picked up the phone and arranged to meet Thomas for lunch on Monday. Was I betraying my daughter by helping Alicia? The question troubled me deeply. But as I recalled Alicia kneeling in mud to help a stranger while my own daughter dismissed her without compassion, I knew I couldn't simply walk away. Sometimes doing the right thing meant making difficult choices, even when family was involved. Sunday evening arrived with the familiar routine of our weekly family dinner. Megan had insisted on continuing this tradition even after moving into her own luxury apartment downtown. Usually, I looked forward to these evenings, a chance to stay connected to my only child amid our busy lives. Tonight, however, my stomach twisted with apprehension as I prepared her favorite lasagna. Precisely at 6, Megan arrived with her typical punctuality, a bottle of expensive red wine in hand and her professional smile firmly in place. She was wearing casual designer clothes, but still maintained the polished appearance she carried into the office. "Smells amazing, Mom," she said, kissing my cheek before heading to the wine cabinet for glasses. "How was your week?" We engaged in the customary small talk as I finished preparing the salad her latest fitness class, my book club's current selection, neighborhood gossip. Throughout the conversation, I searched for the right moment to bring up Alicia, knowing the pleasant atmosphere would evaporate the moment I did. As we sat down to eat, Megan raised her glass. "To relaxing Sundays and your amazing cooking." I clinked glasses automatically, then set mine down. "Megan, I need to talk to you about something." She took a bite of lasagna, eyebrows raising slightly at my serious tone. "Okay. What's up?" I met with Alicia Parker, the woman who changed my tire. Megan's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "Why would you do that?" "Because I felt responsible for her losing that opportunity at your company. I wanted to understand her situation better." Setting down her fork with deliberate care, Megan's expression cooled. "Mom, we've been through this. My hiring decisions are not your concern. They become my concern when someone loses an opportunity specifically because they helped me," I countered. "Alicia is a single mother with an impressive marketing background and a sick child who needs health insurance. That's unfortunate, but it doesn't change my decision." Megan took a sip of wine. "The position's filled anyway. We hired Brittany Taylor yesterday, your college roommate's sister," I said flatly, having confirmed this detail through my research. A recent graduate with one internship versus an award-winning strategist with 8 years of experience. Megan's eyes widened slightly, then narrowed. "How did you know that?" "I did my homework, Megan. What happened to your company's merit-based hiring policy?" "Brittany is perfectly qualified," she defended, color rising in her cheeks, "and she demonstrated reliability by showing up on time and properly dressed. Unlike the woman who ruined her only interview suit helping your mother, I said quietly. The tension between us thickened as Megan pushed her plate away. I can't believe you're investigating my professional decisions. This is completely inappropriate. What's inappropriate is watching you become someone who values appearances over character, I replied, my voice trembling slightly. Do you remember when you were 16 and got caught in that thunderstorm before your Harvard interview? You were 30 minutes late and soaking wet. That was different? How? Professor Winthrop waited for you and conducted the interview anyway, even though you were dripping on his carpet. He saw past the circumstance to your potential. Megan stood abruptly. I don't need a lecture about my own life experiences. Maybe you do, I countered, also standing. Because somewhere between that grateful 16-year-old and now, you've forgotten what it means to show grace to others. This is business, Mom. Not some sentimental charity case. Business is still conducted by human beings, Megan. Your father built his entire company on that principle. Invoking James felt like pulling out my strongest card. Megan had adored her father and his business ethics. He would be disappointed to see you dismiss someone's character in favor of a superficial judgment. That struck home. Megan's eyes glistened momentarily before her professional mask slammed back into place. Don't bring Dad into this. He belongs in this conversation. He taught you better than this. Megan grabbed her purse from the counter. I need to go. We're not finished discussing this. Yes, we are, she snapped. You've made it clear you don't respect my professional judgment. And now, you're using Dad to manipulate me emotionally. That's not what I'm doing, I protested. I'm asking you to remember the values we raised you with. Values? Like loyalty and respect? She moved toward the door. Because investigating my hiring decisions and meeting with rejected candidates shows neither. Megan, please. I'll skip dinner next Sunday. I need some space from whatever this is. She gestured vaguely between us. As the door closed behind her, I sank back into my chair, the barely touched lasagna cooling on our plates. The confrontation had gone even worse than I'd anticipated. Not only had I failed to change Megan's perspective, but I'd also damaged our relationship in the process. For a moment, I questioned whether helping Alicia was worth the cost. But then I remembered the determination in her eyes as she spoke about her son, the dignity with which she handled rejection, and her kindness on the highway that rainy morning. Sometimes, doing the right thing came with painful consequences. As I cleared the dishes, I resolved to proceed with my plan, even knowing my relationship with my daughter might never be the same. Sleep eluded me that night. I tossed and turned, replaying my argument with Megan, and questioning whether I was overstepping boundaries. By dawn, with sunlight filtering through my curtains, I had made my decision. This wasn't just about Alicia anymore, it was about what kind of mother I had been and what kind of person I wanted to be going forward. I dressed carefully for my lunch with Thomas Wilson, choosing a professional outfit I hadn't worn since retiring from business development. Looking in the mirror, I hardly recognized the determined woman staring back at me, someone emerging from 15 years of comfortable retirement to take action. Thomas had suggested Rossini's, an upscale Italian restaurant frequented by business executives. When I arrived, he was already waiting still, the same imposing figure with silver hair and keen eyes, though with more wrinkles than when we'd worked together years ago. Jennifer Sullivan, he grinned, standing to embrace me. Still elegant as ever. Retirement suits you. You're looking well yourself, Thomas. Running your own company agrees with you. After ordering, Thomas leaned forward. So, what's this mysterious meeting about? Your call sounded serious. I took a deep breath. I want to talk about a marketing professional named Alicia Parker. His eyebrows rose slightly. Alicia Parker. Doesn't ring a bell. Should I know her? No, but I think you should. I removed a folder from my bag, copies of Alicia's portfolio that I'd asked her to email for my nephew in marketing. She's a former senior strategist from Reynolds Communications with an impressive track record. Thomas accepted the folder with curiosity. And your interest in her career is? This required careful navigation. I didn't want to appear to be seeking a favor based on our friendship, nor did I want to reveal my connection to Hartford marketing through Megan. She helped me during a roadside emergency recently. In conversation, I learned about her professional background and current job search. Given your company's focus on innovative marketing strategies, I thought there might be mutual benefit in an introduction. Thomas flipped through the portfolio, his expression shifting from polite interest to genuine engagement. These campaigns for Nextel were hers? And the Riverside Health rebrand? He whistled softly. Reynolds let her go, downsizing last spring. Their entire strategic department was eliminated. Their loss, he murmured, continuing to examine her work. Why hasn't someone snapped her up? I shrugged, keeping my expression neutral. Job market is competitive. Plus, she's a single mother with a child who has medical issues. Needs flexibility occasionally. Thomas nodded thoughtfully. We've been looking to strengthen our strategy team, especially after losing the sports fuel account. He paused, giving me a shrewd look to Hartford marketing. As it happens, I maintained my poker face, though my heart rate increased. Is that right? Competitive business. Very. Thomas closed the portfolio. I'd like to meet her. We have an opening that might be a good fit, though we haven't advertised it yet. That would be wonderful, I replied, perhaps too eagerly. Thomas tilted his head, studying me. Jennifer, we've known each other too long for games. What's your stake in this woman's career? I considered continuing the pretense, but honesty seemed the better course with an old friend. She's a good person who deserves a break. And I believe in karma, too. He chuckled. Fair enough. I'll have my assistant set up an interview, though I should warn you we're not a charity. If she's not as good as this portfolio suggests, there's not much I can do. That's all I'm asking, for a fair chance based on her merits. As our lunch concluded, I felt both relieved and anxious. I had opened a door for Alicia, but I was careful not to tell her who had recommended her when I called to share the news of the interview opportunity. Wilson Creative Group? That's amazing, Alicia exclaimed. They're one of the top agencies in the region. How did this happen? They're actively recruiting for their strategy team, I said vaguely. Your resume caught their attention. But I didn't apply there recently, she said, confusion evident in her voice. Perhaps they found your portfolio online? The important thing is the opportunity. Right? She accepted this explanation, too excited about the prospect to question it deeply. You're right. Thank you for letting me know. I'll start preparing right away. Over the next few days, I helped Alicia prepare for the interview, researching Wilson Creative's recent campaigns, practicing potential questions, and even watching Connor one evening so she could get her suit professionally cleaned. You've been so kind to me, she said as she picked up Connor after her interview. I don't know how to thank you. How did it go? I asked, deflecting her gratitude. Her smile was radiant. Really well, I think. Mr. Wilson himself conducted part of the interview. He said my strategic approach to the sports fuel campaign was exactly what they've been looking for. My conscience twinged at the mention of the account Hartford marketing had won. Was I crossing a line here? Using my connections to essentially pit one company against another, with my own daughter caught in the middle? That evening, I received a call from Thomas. Your Alicia Parker is impressive, he said without preamble. We're making her an offer tomorrow. Senior Strategic Director with a signing bonus and comprehensive health benefits. My relief was profound. That's wonderful news, Thomas. There's something you should know, Jennifer, he added, his tone shifting. During the interview, she mentioned her recent rejection from Hartford marketing due to tardiness after helping a woman change a tire. I held my breath. Interesting coincidence, since that company's HR director is Megan Sullivan. Your daughter. If I'm not mistaken, Thomas. No need to explain, he interrupted. Family dynamics are complicated. But I want to be clear, we're hiring Alicia Parker because she's exceptionally talented, not as some corporate chess move against your daughter's company. I understand completely, I assured him, and I appreciate your discretion in this matter. After hanging up, I sat in my living room feeling simultaneously triumphant and troubled. I had helped Alicia secure a position that would provide for her and her son. But at what cost to my relationship with Megan? And had I manipulated the situation too heavily, overstepping my bounds? As a mother, I had always tried to fix things for Megan, her scraped knees, her homework struggles, her college applications. Perhaps I had never stopped trying to fix things, and in doing so, had failed to let her develop her own moral compass. Whatever came next, I knew one thing with certainty. This situation would eventually come to light. And when it did, the fallout would be significant. The storm broke on a Tuesday afternoon, exactly 1 week after Thomas had made Alicia an offer. My phone rang while I was gardening, and Megan's name flashed on the screen. Taking a deep breath, I removed my gloves and answered. "How could you?" Her voice was ice-cold, controlled fury vibrating through each syllable. "Hello to you too, Megan. Don't. Just don't." I heard her take a sharp breath. Alicia Parker just accepted a senior strategic director position at Wilson Creative, our direct competitor. They outbid us for the Lancaster account this morning using strategies suspiciously similar to ones we were developing. I closed my eyes briefly. "I'm sorry you lost the account. Are you?" Because Thomas Wilson personally mentioned what a strong recommendation came from his old friend Jennifer Sullivan. He thought I'd be pleased my mother was so well connected. My stomach dropped. Thomas had revealed my involvement, something I hadn't anticipated. "Megan, you deliberately undermined me professionally," she interrupted, her voice rising. "Do you have any idea how this makes me look? The HR director whose mother secretly funnels rejected candidates to our competitors? That's not what happened," I defended. "I simply introduced a qualified professional to a company that might value her skills. After I explicitly told you my decision was final, you went behind my back to the competition." I took a deep breath, struggling to maintain my composure. Alicia deserved a fair chance based on her qualifications, not a rejection based on circumstances beyond her control. "That wasn't your call to make." Megan's voice cracked slightly. "This is my career, my professional reputation you've damaged. I've worked so hard to be taken seriously as a young female executive, and now I look like I can't make decisions without my mommy interfering." Her words stung with truth. I hadn't fully considered how my actions would reflect on Megan professionally. "I never intended to hurt your career," I said quietly. "I just couldn't stand by watching someone suffer unfairly when I had the power to help." "Save it," Megan snapped. "I don't want to hear your justifications. Just don't contact me for a while. I need space." The line went dead before I could respond. I sat heavily on the garden bench, phone clutched in my soil-stained hand, the magnitude of the damage fully hitting me. Megan had never cut contact before, not even during her rebellious teenage years. That evening, I called my ex-husband Robert, Megan's father, hoping for some perspective or advice. Though our marriage had ended 12 years ago, we maintained an amicable relationship focused on our shared love for our daughter. "She called me too." Robert sighed after I explained the situation. "She's pretty upset, Jen." "I know. I couldn't do nothing." "That's always been your way," he said, not unkindly. "Remember when you organized that petition to fire Megan's third-grade teacher for unfair grading practices?" Despite everything, I smiled at the memory. Mrs. Hargrove was giving higher grades to boys on principle. Someone had to stand up to her. And you did. Just like you always do. Robert paused. "But Megan's not 8 years old anymore. She's a professional woman who needs to fight her own battles and make her own mistakes. Even when those mistakes hurt innocent people, even then," he confirmed. "That's how she learns and grows." "So you think I was wrong?" Robert chuckled. "I think you were being exactly who you've always been, a force of nature who can't stand by when you perceive an injustice. But I also think there might have been a less nuclear option than going to her company's main competitor." After we hung up, I tried texting Megan a simple apology, but it went unanswered. Days stretched into a week, then 2. Our Sunday dinners, a constant for years, sat suspended in limbo. Thanksgiving plans, which we'd tentatively discussed before the conflict, seemed increasingly unlikely. The silence was deafening. Friends who knew us both became awkwardly caught in the middle. Megan's godmother, Patricia, called to tell me gently that Megan had withdrawn from her birthday celebration to avoid seeing me. "She just needs time," Patricia advised. "This feels like betrayal to her. Even if your intentions were good, what troubled me most was the creeping doubt about my own motivations. Had I truly acted solely out of concern for Alicia? Or was there an element of wanting to teach Megan a lesson about compassion? The line between principled action and maternal overreach had become uncomfortably blurred. While Megan and I remained estranged, I received occasional updates about Alicia from Thomas. She had indeed accepted the position at Wilson Creative, with a salary 30% higher than what Hartford Marketing would have offered, and a flexible schedule that accommodated her son's medical appointments. She's already making waves, Thomas told me during a brief phone call. The Lancaster campaign was largely her concept. She has this uncanny ability to identify emotional connections with consumers that our competitors miss. I felt genuinely happy for Alicia's success, though it was bittersweet knowing it had come at such personal cost. I wondered if I would make the same choice again, knowing the outcome. The answer, I realized with both sadness and certainty, was yes. Helping Alicia had been the right thing to do, even if my approach had damaged my relationship with my daughter. Sometimes, moral clarity came with painful consequences, a lesson I hoped Megan might someday understand. As the holidays approached with no sign of reconciliation, I began to accept that the rift between us might be permanent. The thought brought profound grief, but also a quiet certainty that I had acted according to my deepest values. Whether Megan could eventually see that remained to be seen. 3 months passed with only minimal contact between Megan and me, terse text messages about practical matters, and one brief, awkward phone call when her father was hospitalized for minor surgery. The pain of our estrangement had settled into a dull ache that flared whenever I passed her favorite restaurant or saw a mother and daughter shopping together. Then, on a crisp March evening, my phone rang with an unexpected call from Thomas Wilson. "Jennifer, glad I caught you. I wanted to personally invite you to the Connecticut Marketing Excellence Awards next week, as my guest." I hesitated, surprised by the invitation. "That's very kind, but I'm not in the industry anymore. Wouldn't you prefer someone more connected?" "Actually, no." I could hear the smile in his voice. "Wilson Creative is receiving the Innovation Award for the Lancaster campaign, Alicia's campaign. I thought you might like to be there." Pride surged through me. "That's wonderful news. Alicia must be thrilled." "She is. Though she still has no idea about your role in bringing her to us." He paused. "There's something else you should know. Hartford Marketing will be there too. They're nominated for the Social Impact Award." My heart constricted. "Megan will be attending." "Most likely," Thomas confirmed. "I understand if that makes you uncomfortable." I considered declining, avoiding the potential confrontation. But something in me rebelled against hiding. "I'd be honored to attend, Thomas." "Thank you." The night of the awards, I dressed carefully in a midnight blue gown I'd purchased years ago for a charity gala. The elegant hotel ballroom was filled with marketing professionals in formal attire, clustered around high tables with champagne flutes and engaged in animated conversation. Thomas greeted me warmly, introducing me to his team as an old friend and exceptional talent spotter. I smiled at the inside joke, though my eyes continuously scanned the room for Megan. I spotted her near the bar, stunning in a sleek black dress, her hair swept up elegantly. She was speaking with an older gentleman I recognized as her company's CEO, not yet having seen me. For a moment, I considered approaching her, attempting reconciliation in this neutral setting. Before I could decide, Alicia appeared at my side. "Mrs. Sullivan, what a wonderful surprise," she beamed, radiant in a simple but elegant red dress. "I had no idea you'd be here." "I'm a guest of Thomas," I explained, genuinely happy to see her. "Congratulations on your nomination. Thomas tells me it's largely your campaign." "It's been an incredible few months," she confided. "Connor's health has stabilized now that we have proper insurance coverage, and the work environment at Wilson is amazing, supportive but challenging." "I'm so pleased for you," I said sincerely. Her expression grew serious. "I never properly thanked you for your encouragement during my job search. Those weeks were so dark, and your kindness meant more than you know." As we spoke, I noticed Megan finally spotting me across the room. Her expression froze, eyes widening as she registered my presence, and then narrowing when she saw me talking with Alicia. She excused herself from her CEO and began moving purposefully in our direction. "Excuse me," I said to Alicia, "but I need to speak with someone." I met Megan halfway across the ballroom, away from the main clusters of guests. Her face was a carefully composed mask, professional smile firmly in place despite the coldness in her eyes. Mother! What a surprise! Her voice could have frozen champagne. Hello, Megan. You look beautiful tonight. Thank you. She glanced pointedly toward Alicia. I see you're here with the competition. I'm here as Thomas Wilson's guest, I corrected gently. How have you been? Professionally? Challenged by a sudden competitive surge from Wilson Creative. Her smile tightened. Personally? Still processing my mother's betrayal. But otherwise, fine. Before I could respond, an announcement called everyone to their seats for the awards presentation. Megan moved to step past me, then paused. We're at table 7, if you'd like to stop by later. Dad's here too. The unexpected olive branch, however small, caught me off guard. I'd like that, I managed. The ceremony proceeded with the expected speeches and presentations. When the Innovation Award was announced, Alicia took the stage with gracious confidence. During her acceptance speech, she acknowledged her team, her son's support, and then, to my complete surprise, me. And finally, I want to thank Jennifer Sullivan, she said, searching the crowd until she found me. A woman who stopped to help me when I was broken down on the side of the road, metaphorically speaking. Sometimes the kindness of one person can change everything. The spotlight suddenly found me in the crowd, and applause rippled through the ballroom. My cheeks burned with embarrassment and emotion as I nodded acknowledgement. When I glanced toward Megan's table, her expression was unreadable. Later, as guests mingled during dessert, I made my way to table 7. Robert greeted me with a warm hug, while Megan's colleagues nodded politely, clearly aware of the tension between mother and daughter. Quite a moment during Alicia Parker's speech, Megan's CEO commented, "You know her personally?" Before I could formulate a diplomatic response, Megan intervened. My mother has a talent for helping stranded motorists and marketing executives alike. Her tone was just ambiguous enough that her colleagues laughed uncertainly, unsure if this was friendly banter or veiled criticism. The conversation turned to safer topics, though Megan remained coolly distant. As the evening wound down, I was gathering my wrap when Megan approached alone. "I assume you'll be at Dad's birthday dinner next week?" she asked. "I'm planning on it," she nodded, seemingly struggling with what to say next. "That story Alicia told about you helping her when she was broken down. Was that literal or figurative?" "Both," I replied simply. Something flickered across Megan's face, perhaps the first crack in her righteous anger. Without another word, she turned and walked away, leaving me with the sense that something significant had shifted, though I couldn't yet define what. The next morning, I received a text from Robert. "Megan asked a lot of questions about you last night after you left. Progress? I wasn't sure, but for the first time in months, I felt something like hope." 3 weeks after the award ceremony, my doorbell rang unexpectedly on a Saturday afternoon. When I opened the door, I found Megan standing on my porch, looking uncharacteristically casual in jeans and a sweater, her expression a complex mixture of determination and vulnerability. "Can we talk?" she asked simply. I stepped back, welcoming her inside. Of course. We settled in the living room, the space between us filled with 3 months of unspoken words. Megan declined my offer of tea or coffee, sitting rigidly on the edge of the sofa. "We're struggling with the Westridge campaign," she began abruptly. "The client isn't connecting with any of our concepts." This was hardly what I'd expected. "I'm sorry to hear that. It's the kind of campaign Alicia Parker would have handled perfectly." Megan's gaze met mine directly. The kind of emotional storytelling she showcased in the Lancaster campaign that beat us. I remained silent, sensing there was more to this visit than professional frustration. "I made a mistake, Mom." The admission seemed physically painful for her. Not hiring her. She was the best candidate, and I rejected her for something that wasn't her fault. The acknowledgement stunned me. Megan rarely admitted mistakes, even as a child. "What brought you to that realization?" I asked carefully. "Results speak for themselves." She shrugged slightly. "Wilson Creative's market share is up 12% this quarter, largely attributed to her strategies. Meanwhile, we're struggling to maintain client relationships she could have strengthened. It was a pragmatic assessment, typical of Megan's business-oriented mindset. But I suspected there was more to her visit than professional regret. Is that the only reason you're here? Megan sighed, her composed facade cracking slightly. No. Dad's been persistent in suggesting I reconsider my reaction to what you did. And what do you think now? I prompted gently when she didn't continue. I think. She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. I think I was raised to believe that following rules and protocols was the path to success. Punctuality, proper procedures, professional boundaries, these were non-negotiable values in our house. I couldn't argue with that. James and I had indeed emphasized structure and responsibility. But Dad reminded me of something else you taught me, she continued. About standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. Like when you organized that walkout at my school when they cut the girls' sports funding. The memory brought a small smile. The principal wasn't happy with me. You didn't care. You said sometimes rules need to be broken to fix broken systems. Megan looked down at her hands. I forgot that part of our family values. Megan. No, let me finish. She took a deep breath. I've spent 3 months being angry with you for going behind my back, for undermining my authority. But the truth is, I was embarrassed. Embarrassed that you saw something in Alicia that I missed because I was too rigid to look past a minor infraction. Her honesty was disarming. For the first time, I glimpsed the internal struggle she must have been experiencing. I was trying to be taken seriously as a young female executive, she continued. I thought being tough and uncompromising was the only way to earn respect. But all I did was reject someone who would have been an asset to our company, someone who showed more character in that one act of kindness than I did in my entire hiring process. Leadership isn't about being the toughest person in the room, I said gently. Your father knew that. He was firm when necessary, but always, always humane. I know that now. Megan's voice wavered slightly. And I understand why you did what you did. I don't agree with how you did it. Going to our competitor was a bit extreme, Mom. I laughed softly, acknowledging the criticism. Perhaps not my most diplomatic move, but your heart was in the right place. She met my eyes directly. You were trying to balance a scale that I had tipped unfairly. And I've been too proud to admit that. The admission hung between us, bridging months of hurt and misunderstanding. I reached across the coffee table, taking her hand in mine. I should have talked to you again instead of acting behind your back, I acknowledged. I treated you like the child I needed to fix things for, not the professional adult you are. I'm sorry for that. Megan squeezed my hand. And I should have listened when you tried to explain Alicia's circumstances. I was so focused on maintaining my authority that I couldn't see the bigger picture. We sat in companionable silence for a moment, the tension between us dissolving into something gentler, mutual recognition of mistakes made and lessons learned. So where do we go from here? I finally asked. Well, Megan said, her professional demeanor returning slightly, I've been thinking about how to incorporate what I've learned into my work. I've scheduled a meeting with our CEO to discuss revising our hiring practices. In what way? Creating more flexibility for candidates with extenuating circumstances. Implementing a more holistic evaluation process. A small smile touched her lips. Maybe a second-chance interview option for promising candidates who might have had external factors affecting their first impression. Pride swelled within me, not the prideful ownership of a parent taking credit for their child's accomplishments, but the deeper pride of witnessing growth and evolution. That sounds like the kind of leader I always knew you could be, I told her sincerely. Megan's smile widened. I had a good teacher. 2, actually. She glanced at the family photo of her father and me that still held pride of place on my mantle. Though I'm still not thrilled about losing the Lancaster account, I laughed. Competitive to the end. That you got from your father. Speaking of competitive, she said, her tone lightening. Sunday dinner tomorrow? I'll cook this time. I wouldn't miss it. As Megan left, the embrace we shared felt different, not the automatic hug of mother and daughter going through motions, but the genuine connection of 2 women who had weathered a storm and emerged with deeper understanding. Our relationship had been fundamentally altered by this conflict, but perhaps it had been strengthened, too tempered, like metal in fire, more resilient for having been tested. 6 months after Megan's unexpected visit, I found myself once again stranded on the side of a road with car trouble. This time, it was an overheated engine on a scorching July afternoon. As I stood beside my car, watching steam rise from under the hood, I couldn't help but marvel at the symmetry of life's lessons. So much had changed since that rainy day when Alicia Parker had stopped to change my tire. What had begun as a simple act of kindness had triggered a cascade of events that transformed relationships, careers, and perspectives. Alicia had flourished at Wilson Creative Group, recently being promoted to creative director with a team of her own. Her son Connor's health had stabilized with proper medical care, and the flexible work arrangements allowed her to be present for both his appointments and his Little League games. Whenever we met for our now regular coffee dates, she radiated the confidence of someone who had weathered a storm and emerged stronger. "Connor asked about you yesterday," she mentioned during our last meeting. "He says you're his mom's guardian angel." I had laughed at that characterization. I think it was the other way around. Originally, the most profound transformation, however, had occurred in my relationship with Megan. Our Sunday dinners had resumed, but with a new dimension of mutual respect that had previously been missing. She had begun seeking my perspective on work challenges not as a daughter needing mommy's approval, but as one professional consulting another. More importantly, Megan had indeed implemented changes at Hartford Marketing Solutions. She had created a professional mentorship day program that invited students and career changers to shadow executives, learning the unwritten rules of corporate culture that often created invisible barriers to entry. Most surprising was her introduction of a circumstantial consideration component to their interview process, allowing candidates to explain extenuating circumstances that might have affected their application or interview. The initiative had garnered positive attention in industry publications and had already resulted in several exceptional hires who might otherwise have been overlooked. As I waited for roadside assistance, a membership I had promptly renewed after the flat tire incident, my phone rang with Megan's ringtone. "Mom? Are we still on for lunch at Hartford Bistro?" "I might be a bit late," I explained, describing my situation. "Where are you?" "I'll come get you." 20 minutes later, Megan's sleek company car pulled up behind mine. She emerged wearing a professional dress but didn't hesitate to check under the hood herself, heedless of the engine's grime. "Looks like your radiator hose is split," she diagnosed, wiping her hands on a tissue. "Roadside assistance can handle it. But you won't be driving this car today." As we transferred my things to her car, I noticed a familiar blue Honda pulling into the parking lot of the office complex near where I had broken down. "Is that Megan started?" "Alicia," I confirmed, surprised by the coincidence. Alicia spotted us and walked over, concern evident on her face. "Car trouble again, Jennifer?" We explained the situation, all three of us acutely aware of the full circle moment we were experiencing. There was an awkward pause as Megan and Alicia regarded each other, their last interaction having been the rejection interview months ago. Megan broke the tension first. "I heard about your promotion. Congratulations." "Thank you," Alicia replied, her professionalism evident despite the unusual circumstances. "Your Lancaster campaign was exceptional," Megan continued, genuine admiration in her voice. "The emotional targeting strategy was something we should have anticipated." "High praise from the competition," Alicia smiled, then checked her watch. "I have a client meeting, but it was good seeing you both." After she left, Megan looked thoughtful. "You know, we're still looking for a guest speaker for next month's mentorship day. Someone who can talk about resilience and innovative thinking in marketing." I raised an eyebrow. "Alicia would be perfect." "It might be awkward," Megan admitted, "but also powerful. A tangible example of how circumstances and second chances can lead to unexpected opportunities." 2 weeks later, I sat in the back row of Hartford Marketing's conference room, watching Alicia deliver an inspiring presentation on adaptive strategies in changing markets. The room was filled with employees and mentees, including several hired through Megan's new initiative. Megan introduced Alicia with genuine respect, making no mention of their previous interaction, but focusing instead on her impressive professional accomplishments. Afterward, the three of us shared lunch in Megan's office, an event that would have seemed impossible months earlier. "Your mentorship program is remarkable," Alicia told Megan, "especially the circumstantial consideration component. That could have changed everything for me last year." "It was inspired by you." "Actually," Megan admitted. and by my mother's persistence in advocating for what she believed was right. Alicia glanced between us, curiosity evident. There's a story there I don't know, isn't there? Megan and I exchanged smiles. Let's just say we both learned valuable lessons about judgment, second chances, and standing up for what's right even when it's uncomfortable, I explained. As our lunch concluded, Megan proposed something unexpected. Alicia, would you be interested in collaborating on the Westridge Foundation project? It's a nonprofit initiative both our companies have been approached about. Instead of competing, we could co-brand the campaign. Alicia's surprise matched my own. That's unusual in this industry. Sometimes unusual approaches yield the best results, Megan replied. I've learned that recently. The following month, watching Alicia and Megan present their joint proposal to the Westridge Foundation, a community health initiative supporting families with chronically ill children, I felt a sense of completion that transcended professional success. What had begun as a simple act of kindness on a rainy highway had rippled outward, challenging assumptions, breaking down barriers, and ultimately creating something new and better than what had existed before. I thought about how often in life we stand at crossroads where the comfortable choice conflicts with the right choice. How easy it would have been to stay silent that day in Megan's office, to prioritize family harmony over standing up for Alicia. How tempting it is, always, to look away from injustice when addressing it might cost us personally. But I also thought about the unexpected gifts that come from choosing courage over comfort, the deeper relationships, the personal growth, the positive changes that extend far beyond ourselves. As I watched my daughter and Alicia shake hands with the Westridge Foundation board, I realized that sometimes our most important legacy isn't what we achieve ourselves, but what we empower others to achieve when we have the courage to stand up, speak out, and trust that doing the right thing creates ripples we may never fully see. Have you ever found yourself torn between family loyalty and doing what's right? What did you choose, and how did it turn out? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Don't forget to like this video if you found value in this journey. Subscribe for more real-life stories about moral courage and relationships, and share with someone facing their own difficult choice. Remember, sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most meaningful growth. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and may you find the courage to follow your conscience, even when the path isn't easy.